Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and we are finally doing it. We're doing the Darknell boss guide that I've talked about so many times and I've been wanting to do for a long time. Now is a good time to do it because the boss got nerfed last patch, and the mechanics that are in the boss right now seems to be how it's going to be moving forward, so we could talk about the boss and not have to worry about any future nerfs or anything like that. This is a boss that I see people struggle on so much. I do random pug parties on my Fire Poison and my Night Lord every single week, and it usually takes 2 to 3 attempts to clear the boss every single week because people just can't seem to survive in this boss. People genuinely think it's a RNG fiasco. There's no mechanics. This is just a nightmare boss, and if you don't clear it within 2 bursts, that's it. You're gonna wipe and it's over. But that is not true. That is not true. There are mechanics to this boss. There is a pattern. You might just not know what they are, but hopefully by the end of this video, you do know what they are and you're able to clear this boss a lot sooner. So this video is going to be in 2 parts. The first part is the pattern guide. We're going to go over every single one of his attacks, what they look like, and how to dodge them and stuff like that. And then the second part is I'm going to go into the boss and tell you what I do when I clear my runs and give you some actual tips from somebody who clears this every single week and from somebody who has cleared this the first in the entire servers in Reboot, by the way. Just want to point that out. Obviously, video is linked down below. Shout out for this pattern guide. Now let's begin. So Darknell has quite a lot of HP. If you want to think of it in terms of when you can start clearing this boss, if you can clear H. Lomian pretty comfortably, you have the damage necessary to clear normal Darknell. But something that's very important is Darknell is a level 265 boss. So if you're low level, like you're 255, you're 260, you might not actually be able to clear even if you're doing H. Lomian because he's a lot higher. Also, his Arcane Force requirement is a lot higher as well. So you need to have a lot of Arcane Force. You need to have the level required. You can see here that the requirement for Darknell is 850 Arcane Force for normal damage, 1035 at least for 10% more damage, 1105 for 30%, and 1275 or more for 50% more damage, which is a big deal. If you can meet these Arcane Force thresholds, you will be doing way more damage. And then for hard Darknell, 127 trill. If you're able to solo normal Darknell, you could definitely join a hard Darknell party. I often join on my 29 mil CP Night Lord all the time, and I have more than enough damage to contribute to the boss. So the first thing that we got to talk about is these balls. Just kidding. Darknell's balls got removed in the Go West patch, I believe, or maybe a patch after that. He got nerfed. These balls are not a thing anymore. So if you're watching this and it's been a long time since you did Darknell, these balls are not in this boss anymore, and there's no falling debris except for the meteors pattern. That's the only one. So it's a lot easier now. Next thing we got to talk about is like the columns that explode. They do a lot of damage. They do 40% max HP, and this is what they look like. You see there's an indicator that's like thin, and then after a couple seconds, it explodes in this wide area. So you want to not be standing on top of these as they're happening. Now let's talk about Darknell himself. He has mechanics on his own that you need to know. So this is his basic attack. The best advice I could give you for Darknell's attacks is to look at his weapon, his cleaver or whatever it is, because the angle of his weapon tells you what attack that he's doing. So if it's on this angle where it's like behind him pointed downward, it's just going to be a regular knockback push that he does. It does a lot of damage, 40%, 50% hard, and it knocks you back. And the hitbox is actually really big. You can see that the colors get inverted when he's about to swing. And this hitbox is really big. It's like a big cone in front of him. If you up jump on an Explorer Mage, for example, just up jump, it still hits you. That's how high up the hitbox is. You need to up jump and blink up or have a really high up jump to dodge it, or just be away from him. And I would say behind him, but even if you're behind him, like where the cleaver is, you're still going to get knocked back, but you're going to be sent backwards. So you need to be like pretty far away from him to not get hit by this. So this is the next attack that he does, where he puts his sword straight up in the air above him. It says attack buff increases the damage of himself and field mobs. It says his attacks are fixed percent damage, so it's useless. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not like he does more damage. So this is one of his attacks that are quite a bit quick. And how it works is if you're in a party, he smashes down on a random person. But if you're by yourself, he's going to smash down on your previous location when he went up. So as long as you move from your last location, you're good. But basically what he does is you'll see him like crouch down a little bit, and then he's going to go jump in the air and then smash down. And this smash down area is really big. Like this hitbox is like from this edge to this edge. Like it's maybe like 4 characters away from him on each side. So you want to stay away from it. A really good way to dodge this is to up jump. Is to just up jump, stay in the air, blink a little bit, and then you'll dodge it really easily. It stuns you and does a lot of damage, so it's very dangerous. Stuns you, not like makes you miss attack strength. Like it stuns you, like you can't move. So it's very, very dangerous. So this is an attack that people call cleave or his charge. This is a very, very dangerous attack that a lot of people struggle with. When his sword is perfectly parallel to the ground and perpendicular to him, like it's a straight line, he's going to do a dash in front of him that does a massive amount of damage. If you have like, 75% of your health left or you're not full, it's going to kill you. So a really good way of dodging it is just ducking. If you just duck it, you won't get hit. You could up jump over him. You could stay really far away from him, but usually ducking it is the best so that you're still on top of him and you could still DPS more. But you could see it's a massive hitbox. He was on the right side of the map and he dashed to the left side of the map pretty much. So it's a huge hitbox. Just duck it and then you'll be good. When you're doing hard, it does 90% of your max damage. So it's almost a one shot. 90% is crazy. So this is his FMA attack. You're going to see a banner pop up every time he does this. And a little bit of a pro tip, he usually does this when you are away from him. So if you're standing on the far edge of the map and he can't reach you, he usually does the FMA. But if you're constantly on top of him, the chances of him doing FMA is a lot less. So it's not RNG. Some of the mechanics are based off of where he is to you. Like the mechanics like the cleave where he dashes towards you, or the one where he goes up in the air and crashes down. Those are mechanics that he uses to get closer to you. And if you're really far from him, he usually does those mechanics. But if you're always on top of him, he usually just does the sweep or summons the minions. Very easy mechanics to dodge. But this FMA, you see him lift his sword up, the banner pops up, and he does a swipe that goes across almost the entire map, and if you're standing in it, you die. If you can up jump high enough, like towards the ceiling of the map, you can dodge the FMA. Or if you're behind him, you can dodge it. So where he's standing right now, everything to the left will die. So like if you're in the left corner, you're gonna die. So you have to be behind him. But sometimes he does the FMA in the corner. Like if he was standing right against the right edge of the map and he does the FMA left, you can actually stand on the left side and survive. It doesn't go across the entire map. It goes across maybe like 80 to 85% of the entire map distance. That's what it looks like. It's a big wave. So when Darknell slams his sword into the ground, he spawns meteors. He spawns the 4 meteors that are in a diagonal pattern falling down very slowly. So these meteors, because they fall down slowly, are actually pretty dangerous because they're just going to be in the air in that location for a long time. Now, the meteors usually don't come down like this, one on each side. It's usually just on one side and a set of 4 of them. They spawn where your previous location was. So let's say you're on the left side when he does that, then they're going to spawn down there. So what I do during this pattern is I try and split the map in half. Usually if I'm fighting him on the left side and then I see the meteors coming, I'll try to go to the right side and fight him there so that I don't have to deal with the meteors. Or I pop Hero's Will and just jump into the meteor, so I pop it. It still does quite a bit of damage, but if you Hero's Will it, you don't get stunned by it. Once the meteors hit the ground, after a second they pop. You can see they go away. He has the minions that spawn in, and the minions, they're not too dangerous if you have some sort of summon that you can use to just kill them as soon as they spawn. When they spawn in, they have a shield, so you can't do any damage to them, but eventually the shield goes away and you could just kill them. They have really little health, so they're really easy to kill. The problem is if you're really weak and you're attempting this boss, you're not going to be able to kill the minions quickly, and the minions actually like kamikaze on you. Like they explode and they do quite a lot of damage and they're pretty annoying. So the next set of patterns for this boss is the elite bosses. So far we covered what the map does, like those like pillar explosions. We covered Darknell's attacks, and now we need to talk about the elite bosses that he spawns in, which for most people, this is the most difficult part of the fight, is the different elite bosses. So the most important thing that you have to know is every single time Darknell himself does an attack, right? So let's say he does like the cleave, or he does his smash down attack, or he does his, his like bullshit attack buff, or he does his sweep. Every single time he does something, he spawns in E-bosses along with him that also do a different mechanic. So if you know that, then you know that every single time he attacks, you want to step away from him. And I'll show you this, what it looks like in an actual boss fight when we get there. But just know that every single time he does an attack, he spawns in E-bosses with him. And the amount of E-bosses varies depending on the difficulty of the boss and how low his HP is. So in hard Darknell, when he's above 50% HP, every time he does an attack, he spawns 2 E-bosses. In hard Darknell, whenever he's below 50% HP and he does an attack, he spawns in 3 E-bosses. So the boss gets harder the lower HP he has. So these are the different E-bosses that he could spawn in. There's the hero one, the mage one, the archer one, the dual blade one, and the buccaneer one. So keep in mind, all of these E-bosses, it's random which ones spawn, and they all have a different mechanic, and they spawn in every time he does an attack. So this is the hero one. When it spawns in, it does a raging blow attack in front of it, does quite a bit of damage, and it stuns you. It's quick. The E-bosses, they do their attack very quickly, and then they go away. So every single time he does an attack, just take a step away from Darknell, back out, and the E-bosses won't hit you. Every single one of these E-bosses also has a secondary pattern if they're in the air. They have their normal attack, like the hero has the raging blow one when he's on the ground, but if the hero's in the air, then he does a different attack. So the air version of the hero E-boss is the blue chains. So he spawns in this little portal and blue chains come down from it. And the hitbox is pretty big and it does a lot of damage. You can see the hitbox is like a trapezoid, like it spreads out. It's not just a straight line down from the blue portal, it spreads out. So this is actually a pretty dangerous move. You can either jump over it or stay pretty far away from it. The next one is the mage. So the mage spawns in every time in either corner of the map, and he spawns in a blue ball. This blue ball will go across the map until it reaches the other side, and once it's on the other side, it goes away. But this ball does a lot of damage if you're not thinking about it. So the ball, how it works is it shreds you. It does continuously ticking damage if you're standing inside of it. So if you just let it slide past you and you just jump over it, it'll maybe hit you once. It doesn't do too much damage. But if you're following the ball and you're not moving and it just like slowly walks past you, it will shred you and kill you. So you can either duck it or just jump over it. I don't really like ducking it because a lot of other stuff is happening at the same time and you're locked in place if you're ducked. So usually I just jump over it. So if the mage is in the air, then he does the black chains instead of the blue ball. These black chains, you'll see these little indicators on the floor. And if you're standing in this area, black chains come up and they slow you. And slowing is actually a underrated, like annoying status to have. So you got to watch the ground to see if there's any indicators on the ground so you know you could dodge them. This is the archer one. People hate the archer one so much, but I actually don't think it's that bad. It's really easy to dodge. So the archer, whenever it spawns in, it'll shoot an arrow across the map and the arrow moves decently quick and it does a lot of damage, 60% of your max HP in hard Darknell. The other thing about this boss is it's really important to play with sounds on because you can hear the archer if you play with sounds on. So if you're on the left side of the map and the archer spawns on the right side, you're probably not going to see the archer because you can't see the whole map while you're in the boss. If you're all the way in the left corner, the right side, you won't be able to see it. So sometimes the archer could just send an arrow and you won't know. But if you have sound on, you'll be able to hear it. You see the arrow moves pretty quickly. Make sure you up jump the arrow. I don't think you could duck it. I'm pretty sure you can't duck it, so make sure you up jump it. Just jump over it. So when the archer is in the air, instead of doing the arrow, he does blue chains. The same as the other one, so he does the blue chains again. So this blue chain pattern comes from 2 different E-bosses. So this is the dual blade one. The dual blade one is actually pretty dangerous because it's pretty quick. And when he comes out and does the final cut attack, it goes quite a big distance, like in the map. Like the hitbox of the skill goes pretty far. Like look at this. You can see like he was on the right side and now he's like on the left side. Like the hitbox is pretty big and it super knocks you back. Like this thing will push you, send you across the map. So even though it doesn't do too much damage, it still pushes you and you could get hit by other stuff. This often happens with the arrow and you get pushed into the arrow. He also does the phantom blow attack, which is another very quick attack that he could do. This is also very dangerous because it could be comboed with the hero raging blow one and it does a lot of damage. This is the buccaneer one. So the buccaneer one spawns in. And he could do the bullet, and those locations in the map, there's going to be a shot fired there. It does a lot of damage and you get reverse keyed. So it's actually pretty quick. Like as soon as you see him spawn in and those circles are in that location, you got to move out the way. Once the crosshairs are like locked in, then you'll get hit. So you got to move out of the way from that location before the crosshairs lock in. He also does his octo punch, which does quite a lot of damage, and it could be comboed with the hero one or the dual blade phantom blow one, and it does like almost all your health. And that's the boss. That's the boss's mechanic. So he gives you sparks, he gives you free cubes, you get a chance of the commanding force earrings, Estella earrings, Darknell soul shard, and a chance of arcane boxes. Very important to try and clear this boss as early as you can, because you can get arcanes as early as you can as well, and ring boxes and all that stuff. Another thing that's very, very important to mention about the E-bosses that I didn't mention is the direction in which they face. So usually the E-bosses will face the direction opposite of Darknell. So if Darknell is facing left and he does an attack, the E-bosses will come out facing right. Or if he's facing right, the E-bosses will come out and face left. Usually that's the case. Sometimes it's not the case because the boss is a little wonky sometimes, but that's usually how it is. Now let's go into an actual boss and I'll show you what I'm doing in the boss. So I'm here outside of Darknell. I'm going to enter and show you what I do. So boss spawns in right in the middle of the map, right? And you usually want to stick towards him. He does his sweep, and I see that the arrow is there, and I hear it, so I back out. He does his sweep, I go behind him, back out. Chains are happening as well. He does his cleave, I duck, and I see the arrows coming because I hear it. He does the FMA because I'm a little bit away from him. I get pushed by the DB and the buck. You could see how quickly they are. How quick they are. I'm not doing any fancy movements. I'm just flash jumping around here. I'm not doing any dashes. If you have dashes, it makes the boss a lot easier for you. I like to keep the boss in the middle so I have each side to play around. But if he was in the corner, for example, he's probably going to up jump and... Yep, he's probably going to up jump. The reason why I knew he was going to do that is because I was standing very far away from him. When you're standing very far away from him, he does attacks that go across the whole map. You see, now he does the FMA because I was on the right side of the map. And I had to iframe it. Now he's going to do the cleave because he can't reach me. But if I'm right on top of him, he's usually going to do mechanics that are not full map attacks or anything like that. You see, he keeps spamming the sweep because I'm right in front of him. See, he's not doing the FMA. He hasn't been doing the up jump or anything like that. He keeps spamming the sweep because I'm right on top of him. But if you're standing away from him, you see, over there, I was standing a little bit away because I was in the corner. He thought I was in the corner, so he did an attack that makes him get closer to me, like the up jump. You see, I'm just going to stay on top of him, and he's just going to do mechanics that are near him. So if you know this, you can kind of control the attacks that he does. But sometimes he'll still do other mechanics. It's not guaranteed, but the likelihood of him doing other mechanics is a lot lower. So now I'm going to stay in the corner. He might do an FMA or something. See, he does the cleave instead. He does the cleave because it gap closes him towards me. You see, now he did the FMA because he just did the cleave. Usually he won't do the cleave 2 times in a row. Or any mechanic 2 times in a row. Most of the time. Like the big mechanics, he doesn't do them 2 times in a row usually. But if I'm standing away from him, like I'm standing away from me here again, he's probably going to do like an up jump or something. Yep, up jump, and I'm going to up jump, and then you dodge it. And now he does FMA. You can stand right under him, and you could dodge the FMA here. He does cleave because I'm away from him. And now I'm going to stick on top of him again. And you're going to see that he's not going to do those big mechanics generally. Okay, so the next thing that's very, 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 very important for you guys to know is the interval in which he does his attacks. How often he does his attacks. So he does his attacks about every 3 seconds. So if you know that, you'll know when to go away from him. So I like to call it the 1, 2, 3 rule. If you are counting to 3 every single time he does an attack, you'll be fine. Most of the time. So the 1, 2, 3 with the rule works like this. There's a 3-second interval in between his attacks. And if you know that, you will know when you can go in and out of the boss. The best advice I could give you for clearing this boss is to go in and out. If you go in and out, you will know his mechanics. You will dodge all of his mechanics. So every single time he does an attack, you have a 3-second window to attack him before he does his next attack. So this is what that looks like. He's going to do an attack, right? I have 3 seconds to hit him. And then I back out from his next attack. 1, 2, 3. He does an attack. I back out. 1, 2, 3. He doesn't attack. I back out. I back out. 1, 2, 3. I back out. 1, 2, 3. I back out. 1, 2, 3. I back out. This way, every time the E-bosses spawn in, I'm good. Is this gonna hit me? Oh, it's close. Okay. So the reason you want to do this in and out 1, 2, 3 thing is so that every single time he attacks, if you remember what I was saying, he spawns in E-bosses every time he does an attack. So if you back out every single time, you won't get hit by the E-bosses generally. So let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, back out. 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 You see the E-bosses aren't hitting me. 1, 2, 3, back out. He does up jump, so you up jump. One, 2, 3, back out. 1, 2, 3, back out. See, like, if you just get the rhythm down, you won't get hit by anything. So now you know about the E-bosses. You know how to dodge his attacks with the 1, 2, 3 tech. Eventually, you won't have to count. Like, you'll just know the pacing, like, just in your memory. Like, you won't even have to count or anything like that. And now you know that if you're on top of him, he doesn't do the big mechanics. So those two things alone will help you clear the boss. Knowing why he's going to do his certain attacks and knowing how to dodge the E-bosses. Now, the next thing that I want to tell you guys is up jump is a very, very valuable tool. So I'm just going to try and dodge everything from up jumping. So anytime he does something, I'm going to try to up jump. Up jumping is very good. You can see that the cleave still hits you there because it has a really high vertical hitbox. But once there's meteors, you have to try and play on the other side of the map because the meteors will block that side of the map. So up jumping in this boss is very, very strong because not a lot of stuff happens at the very, very like high part of the map. So up jumping and blinking, very, very, very OP tool in this boss. So now you know about up jumping and blinking. You know about why he does certain attacks based off of your distance to him. And you know about how to time his attacks when the E-bosses are spawning or not. You know about meteors splitting the map in half. Like, I can't really go to the right side of the map right now because the meteors are all there and it makes it a lot harder. You can see you can up jump blink the FMA. All of those things will help you clear the boss. And then eventually, as you're DPSing him, while you're going in and out constantly, you're going to kill the boss. And then whenever you have bind, origin burst, stuff like that, it's very easy because you can just bind it. He's not going to do any mechanics or anything like that. So a really easy way of clearing this boss is doing your bind burst, all that stuff. And then while your burst is on cooldown, you constantly do the in and out tech where you're chipping him and then you back out, wait for his attack to finish, keep chipping him again, back out, wait for his attack to finish, dodge the E-bosses, chip him again, back out, chip him again, back out, chip him again. And the reason you also want to do this in and out tech is so that you stay on top of him. If you do the in and out tech and you don't go back, like you just stay out, he's going to do big mechanics like the FMA or the cleave or the drop down. Like, part of the reason why the in and out tech is so good is because you're constantly on top of him. So it makes it so that his mechanics are really easy to dodge. You see, he's just going to spam the sweep. But if I go out and I stay out, he's going to do big mechanics. You see, he does the FMA because I stayed out and I didn't go back in. But if I went back in, he's just going to spam the really easy mechanics to dodge. Hopefully this helps you understand the boss a bit better. And when you join your pug parties, you know how the boss works. Obviously, a lot of these tips are better for solo play because not everyone in a party is going to know this stuff, and it makes the mechanics harder because they don't know it. So if this video helped you out, obviously maybe consider helping me out by subbing, sharing it, liking the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know any tips that you guys might have for maybe for your specific class or whatever. But those are the general tips I would give about Darknell and how to clear the boss. It's really not as bad as it looks if you know the mechanics. With that all being said though, pull up to my Twitch so you can see me do Darknell on multiple characters and stuff like that. And thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Shout out to my members: Blazefire, Shooms, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Koga, Piconir, Jesse B, Dante Victory, CK, Prelman, J, and Blunt Poppy Supreme Oil Backwards. I appreciate you guys so much and have a great day.